The woman getting the most attention is rarely the highest value woman. Some women spend years trying to be chosen. High value women choose. The moment you stop chasing validation, you become harder to replace.
The girl you want to become is only a few levels away. Subscribe and keep climbing.
Level 1. Seeking male validation. At this level, a compliment from the right guy can feel more valuable than a personal achievement. The mirror isn't asking, "Do I like myself?" It's asking, "Will he like me?" A delayed text message suddenly becomes the most important event of the day. Attraction feels like proof of value. Silence feels like proof of failure. The funny part? Most people are too busy thinking about themselves to measure your worth. A stranger's opinion somehow carries more weight than years of personal growth. At this stage, attention feels addictive because it temporarily fills a deeper insecurity. Every outfit becomes a strategy. Every photo becomes a campaign. The search for validation never ends because validation expires surprisingly fast. Then a dangerous question appears. What if your value was never supposed to come from someone else? Level 2. People-pleasing. At this level, saying yes feels easier than disappointing someone. Everyone seems comfortable except the person carrying all the pressure. The fear isn't conflict. The fear is being disliked. Every yes to others quietly becomes a no to yourself. The strange thing about people-pleasing is that it rarely pleases everyone. Some people call you kind, others simply get used to unlimited access. Being available all the time makes your presence feel ordinary. The guilt arrives every time you try to choose yourself. Then, something unexpected happens. One small boundary earns more respect than 100 sacrifices. A high-value woman is not loved because she says yes. She is respected because she knows when to say no. Level 3. Chasing attention. At this level, attention feels like success, even when it changes nothing. The room notices you. The confidence still doesn't arrive. Attention is loud. Self-worth is quiet. The problem is simple. Attention disappears the moment people look somewhere else. At this stage, being noticed matters more than being known. The search for attention creates temporary highs and permanent exhaustion. Some people clap for the image while ignoring the person behind it. The more attention becomes a need, the less powerful it feels. Then a realization appears. Attention can be bought. Respect must be earned. A high-value woman would rather be respected by a few than noticed by everyone. Level 4. Knowing her standards. For the first time, the question changes from "do they want me" to "do I want this?" Standards begin where desperation ends. Not every opportunity deserves a yes. At this level, chemistry is no longer enough. Potential stops being confused with reality. High standards protect peace more than they limit options. The fear of being alone becomes smaller than the fear of settling. The right people rise to your standards. The wrong people complain about them. For the first time, standards feel empowering instead of intimidating. A high-value woman knows her standards are not walls. They are filters. Level 5. Setting boundaries. At this level, access to your life becomes a privilege, not a right. The first boundary feels uncomfortable. The 100th feels normal. Some people respect boundaries. Others reveal why boundaries are needed. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It's responsible. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your emotions. Boundaries stop resentment before it starts. The people who value you adapt. The people who use you complain. A healthy boundary often sounds like a complete sentence. Every boundary strengthens self-respect. A high-value woman protects her energy before she protects her image. Level 6. Emotional control. At this level, emotions still exist, they just stop driving the car. A bad day no longer becomes a bad month. Someone's mood stops becoming your responsibility. At this stage, reactions become choices. Not every message deserves an immediate response. Silence becomes a strategy instead of a weakness. The strongest person in the room is often the calmest. Temporary feelings stop making permanent decisions. Emotional control creates freedom most people never notice. A high-value woman feels deeply without losing herself. Level 7. Independent identity. At this level, your life becomes bigger than your relationships. A relationship becomes part of life, not the entire life. The calendar starts filling with personal goals instead of waiting. Being alone stops feeling like being incomplete. At this stage, purpose becomes attractive. The strongest confidence comes from building a life you enjoy. People are drawn to those who are already fulfilled. A strong identity survives changing circumstances. The need to be completed disappears. A high-value woman creates a life she loves before inviting someone into it. Level 8. Self-respect. At this level, self-respect becomes more important than temporary happiness. The things you once tolerated become impossible to ignore. Disrespect stops looking attractive. Being chosen is no longer the goal. The standards become stronger because the self-worth becomes stronger. At this level, peace becomes non-negotiable. You stop making excuses for people who keep disappointing you. Respecting yourself often means disappointing others. Self-respect changes every decision that follows. A high-value woman protects her dignity even when nobody's watching. Level 9. Selective energy. At this level, not every invitation feels exciting. Some invitations feel expensive because they cost time, energy, and peace. The old version tried to be available for everyone. The new version understands that availability creates burnout. A high-value woman starts asking a different question. Not, do they need me, but is this worth my energy? Some conversations leave you inspired. Others leave you emotionally exhausted. The difference becomes impossible to ignore. At this stage, drama stops looking entertaining and starts looking exhausting. The attention of low-quality people becomes less valuable than the peace of being left alone. For the first time, protecting your schedule feels just as important as protecting your money. You begin noticing that successful women are not always working harder. Many are simply wasting less energy. The strongest people are rarely the busiest people. They're usually the most intentional. A high-value woman understands that energy is an investment, and bad investments are meant to be avoided. Level 10. Unreplaceable presence. At this level, confidence is no longer something you practice. It becomes part of your identity. You stop entering rooms hoping to be noticed. Somehow, that's when people notice you the most. The need to impress quietly disappears because your life already speaks for itself. At this stage, compliments feel good, but they no longer determine how you see yourself. People trust confidence that feels natural. They question confidence that feels performed. The woman who once chased validation now attracts respect without asking for it. She no longer competes with other women because she understands something powerful. Her greatest competition was her previous self. The strongest presence in the room rarely belongs to the loudest person. It belongs to the person who knows exactly who she is. Years ago, she wanted everyone to choose her. Today, she carefully chooses what deserves a place in her life. A high-value woman isn't defined by beauty, attention, status, or approval. She's defined by the standards she keeps when nobody is watching.